Hello, my name is Robert Reid Jr., and I am a racetrack handicapper for various racetracks throughout Ontario and beyond. Basically, what my job is to forecast the performances of the horses on any given night. And again, it's several racetracks. So I write the Horse Players Journal for Mohawk Park. There's more extensive analysis. Every night there's live racing there at Mohawk Park. I also provide selections and do broadcast work for Grand River Raceway in Elora, Ontario, and at the Raceway in London, even do selections for Hiawatha Horse Park in Sarnia, and even dabble into thoroughbred selections for racing in Japan. So pretty extensive, line of racetracks for me and providing my insights. A typical workday for me is spent, watching, many videos of horses running around in circles, and that's literally, what it is for me. Obviously, there's a lot of data in the racing program that we certainly use when we can to our advantage, but it doesn't always tell the whole story. So there is a lot of research that is done. um, Again, watching replays, watching what they call qualifying races, which are like practice races, and trying to get as much information I can of the equine participants on any given night. So I might even contact drivers and trainers, some owners, to try to get any further information that might help the wagering public. My goal at the end of the day is to try to provide winners and provide winning tickets at times for those who are betting from home or on track, again, at the various tracks that I work for. The traits required to perform my job, well, number one is going to be time management, because the thing about doing this and doing this for a living is that there's typically going to be pretty tight deadlines, especially for one like the Horse Players Journal at Mohawk Park. I have to have my selections in, pretty far in advance. So they'll do what they call a draw, which means they basically are drawing the different post positions that horses will have in races. Once that's completed, there's then about one evening's time and some part of an early morning to get all my selections in along with write-ups for that card, which could be taking place a few days in advance. When I'm doing live broadcasts at the Raceway at Western Fair in London or at Grand River, the lead time isn't as much. So I certainly kind of have a little more time to get my thoughts and my selections together. But I would say time management's the biggest thing. Organizational skills is another one too, because if I was just starting fresh every single day, this do handicapping one card of racing could take me more than 24 hours. You have to keep notes, keep a database that kind of lets me go back and reference, so I'm not always starting from scratch every time I open a program. I would say the challenges of my role, firstly, is sometimes there's not enough hours in the day, going back to that whole time management piece. But I would say also, you know, you're putting yourself out there, right? Every day, you're putting selections out there, you're putting your opinion out there, and you know that people are making wagers based on it. So I would say one of the challenges for me is, getting down on myself when my results aren't there. If I'm not hitting at a high success rate, I know those who are following me, might not be doing that either. So I guess at times you have a tendency to be hard on yourself, and in a psychological game like handicapping, horses in this industry, that can really get to you, and you can kind of find yourself in a funk. I think you have to figure out how you're going to get out of that funk that you're in, and usually that just goes back to getting that back down to brass tacks and going back to the drawing board and doing what's worked in the past. So I would say for me, you know, the hours in the day sometimes work against me. Sleep deprivation, because again, working those tight deadlines, sometimes I pull all nighters, and I'm, not getting as much sleep as I should be. But I would say at times, taking things personal in this line of work is something that will not be easy. So you've got to have thick skin, and realize that at the end of the day, you can just do the best that you can do, and hope that when it all shakes out, you provide more winning insights than losing ones. So what led me to become a handicapper in harness racing was being around the sport my entire life. So I started going to Greenwood Raceway in Toronto before I can remember. And my one of my favorite things to do as a child was to go there with my father or my family when we had one of our horses racing. So it became, even an obsession at times. And I remember recently I found one of my tip sheets that I wrote when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And when I looked at it, it was actually better than I had remembered. And I, realized that even at that age, I had a knack for doing this. And I just love the challenge of trying to pick winners and following the sport from a fan perspective and from a handicapper and gambler, because those two are kind of tied with each other. And just being around the sport my whole life, owning racehorses, wagering on them, it just was a natural progression. When you have success, betting in this sport and handicapping, well, then you certainly want to, try to make it something you do every day of your life. And when you're passionate about something like I am for horse racing, then, it was just something that I gravitated towards. And when the opportunity came for me to take over the Horse Players Journal at Mohawk Park, it was something that I jumped at. And I've kind of just ran with it ever since. My advice for anyone that wants to get involved in horse racing, or even more specifically in something like what I do, would be, number one, you need to have a real passion for it. Like, you need to love horses, and the sport as a whole. I find horse racing to be breathtaking. I never get tired of watching a horse race. That's why I can watch thousands of, in a week, and be perfectly fine with it. So I would say have a passion for it. Number one. Number two, just learn as much as you can, and that really comes from, watching, races, if you want to get into horse racing, or just keeping abreast of like industry news. For me, in my side of the sport, harness racing, it's standardbredcanada.ca. There's a lot of great content on there and information on there. And, I would just try to, network as well. Right. I know that's the cool thing about horse racing for me is that it's a pretty big sport, but the participants are still very accessible, whereas many sports they're not. So, I think you could probably call up, a racetrack and ask for more information, or you could even, want to speak to a trainer, owner, even a driver or a jockey on the thoroughbred side. They have time for people. So I would say network as much as you can, and learn as much as you can, about the sport. The most satisfying part of my job, is really when a plan comes together. That's what it comes down to for me. There's certain nights where you look at it afterwards and the results just weren't there, but sometimes it all clicks. And that's when you get messages. I'm very active on Twitter. People will reach out and say, "Hey, thank you. I won X because of help with your selections." And I've never really intended what I do to be something like a be all end all for anyone. I kind of want it to be more so like a choose your own adventure. Kind of use what I think, you know, as you will, but make your own decisions. But when it does all come together and it works out, and one of my best bets on a card wins, and someone reaches out to say, "Hey, that really helped me out," that's the most satisfying part of my job. And some people find it hard to believe that. I would say that's even more satisfying to me than if I actually cash my own tickets in wagering, because at the end of the day, that's what I've been hired to do. That's what my job is. It's to guide people in the right direction. And there's no better feeling when you go through the course of a night and you feel like you've actually done that. It's not an easy thing to do to pick winners in horse racing. I mean, you're going to lose more races than you win. That's just the sheer numbers of it. It's just trying to maximize those ones when you do. So when that all comes together, that's when it's most satisfying for me. Thank you for watching. I hope that you learned a little bit more about what I do as a racetrack handicapper. And my advice to you would be to keep learning about horses. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.